Now, welcome back to Christian World Today. My name is Frederick Njiri. Just in case you're joining us, and we're still waiting for Mr. Kituzi. He's somewhere within the compound. He's been riding a horse coming over from the far side of the city, and he got stuck in some place, but it's all good. And one of the things that we'll be looking at is the parenting style, because the question we're asking today is whether parents are too soft on their children. I remember a couple of, I think it was months ago, there was a conversation that was going about with the people asking whether we should go back to caning our children, because children don't know what caning is. I'm telling you, when I was growing up, basically you can call it, if what happened then to me would happen to a child today, I can guarantee you probably my dad would end up in the police station. It will be termed as child abuse, because we were really whipped. You did a mistake, you were properly whipped. And I think we turned out right, because the scriptures does say that, you know, the cane will not kill the child. In fact, it says the rod of discipline basically kicks foolishness away from the child. So what we are seeing right now is a change of, you know, a generation that probably does not appreciate the way our parents brought up our kids, brought us up, because what happened is when we grew up, we said we will not allow our children to go through what we went through with our parents. And what is happening right now is you have children who are talking back to their parents, children who have completely different moral standards, and they are doing things and they can argue with their parents. If I dared do that to my dad, oh man, probably right now there would be something, people raising money for a funeral close by, because I would have been beaten like something else. But times have changed, parenting styles have changed, and even within the church circles we are seeing some things happening that quite a number of people are getting concerned, and it's one of those things that we want to address. We want to find out, should we change our parenting styles with what is happening? Have we become too soft to our kids, or have we become, you know, too friendly to them, that they see us as, you know, age mates and they don't respect us? And Mr. Kituzi is already here.
Sure.
Karibu.
Asante sana.
Your horse must have been have broken a leg.
Sure. Sure.
$1 million question.
Yes.
I think we just go straight to this.
Yes.
When you look, you were a teacher before, right?
Yes, I was.
And in a secondary school.
Sure.
When you interacted with the students then,
Yeah.
And you look at the way probably they're being handled by their parents, how would you compare the moral values of that generation and the previous generation? You're also a parenting expert.
Sure. That's a very good question. First of all, it's important to note that there's a very huge generational gap between the parents and the generation we are raising right now, the children.
Yes.
Especially the teenagers. They're calling themselves now Gen Z.
Yes.
And as such, with those differences in mind, for example, in our days, like you pointed out at the introduction,
yes,
the way we were parented was communal.
Yes.
Like a child belonged to the village.
Yeah.
And it took the village to raise a man, they said.
Yeah.
But right now we live in a very individualistic society.
Where my kids are my kids and you don't dare touch them.
Sure. And so it's God for us all, every man for himself.
Yes.
So the way I parent my child is not the same way the neighbor parents their child. But when my child goes out, they have to meet with these children that are raised very differently from how I raised mine. So in that regard, you find that there is, first of all, the pressure to conform. They even have a term for it. They call it FOMO.
FOMO.
The fear of missing out. And so it's because of that that you find that our children actually face a lot of pressures brought about by social media, something that wasn't there in our generation. brought about.
With all these things coming, would you say as parents we have failed to give our children strong foundations that irrespective of the kind of influence that is beating upon them, they can be able to stand on their own 2 feet without being pushed by peer pressure or, you know, this phone pressure, social media pressure. They can be able to stand on their own, stand on the values and principles they've been taught at home?
Yes and no. We have failed to the extent that we as parents are not actually learning and learning and relearning how to parent these children. Because unless we do that, then we shall fail and fail miserably. One, it's up to the parent to actually educate yourself on what are the pressures and the challenges that the young generation is facing right now, things that are different from how we were raised. Number two, it's because parents, like most parents right now of teenagers, going to Form 1, Form 2, they are what we call the millennial generation.
Yep.
And the millennial generation has one failure, is that we do not want to parent our children the way we were parented.
Yes.
And so
we think the parents are, our parents were too strict.
we think they were strict, and most people are suffering from what they call trauma, that they have childhood traumas. And because of that, they think, I will not parent the way I was parented. And to some extent, now we become too permissive. And that becoming too permissive, we raise a very pervasive generation. Because now kids are unriddled. They are not controlled. They have freedom of speech, which is good. But at the same time, we must balance between avoiding the childhood traumas we faced and bringing up a generation that is well balanced.
Would you say there were traumas really? Because look at the generation that was raised by, you know, that group of parents. They came out just fine. We knew that you do something silly, you'll get the whip.
True.
And the whip kept you sane. This talking that is being done today, is
democracy.
This democracy.
Yes.
Where you're having conversation with your kids, you're telling them don't do this, and they can quote laws after laws after laws of why they should do.
Yes.
There are civil society groups in your house.
Yeah. So that has been contributed by a number of factors. Number one, as you say, the law. We have done away with corporal punishment in schools, which is good, but at the same time we must ask...
Is it really? Because if we are not caning our children at home, and then we take them to school, we are taking you know, a rebel who's already shown that they are rebels at home, then we take them and we expect the teachers to do what?
So the thing is this, that there must be a balance, and that calls for individual decisions. A balance between how well do I discipline my kids so that I prepare them for the world out there, for the respect of the rule of law, respect to authority, such that they'll not question authority when they go out there. Number two, corporal punishment in by itself wasn't wrong. What was wrong was the extent to which some teachers would go in as far as just harming the child instead of correcting the child. But by and in itself is not a wrong thing, because we spare the rod, we spoil the child. And so it's important for an individual parent to make that decision that mine I'll cane. I'll show them the way I was shown the way, so that when they go out there, they know that there's the police, they'll have a boss who will not tolerate their nonsense. So it's important to prepare them for the world out there by telling them that the world you're living in actually is balanced in such a way that if you do something wrong, you face the consequences.
Now, you know, just the other day, I came face to face with the effects of TikTok, where some of the children who are, you know, watching TikToks, getting exposed to these videos of Western children, the way they behave with their parents and that kind of stuff, where this particular child of a friend of mine, whose name I'm not going to mention, basically she had done something wrong. And when she was questioned, she walked out when the mother of the house was speaking. She went into the bathroom, locked herself up, and then put on the taps, the shower on, and she's fully clothed. That lady was telling me she felt like she was going to speak in tongues. Or basically get that kid out of the house and launch the kid to the moon.
Smash the demon out of her.
Yes.
Yes.
Wondering, what in the world is this? So the more we're exposing our children to some of these things, because we cannot stop them from getting exposed to them.
Sure.
How do we do, what kind of training do we do so that irrespective of what they come across, they are not mimicking that?
Yes, the fact is the internet and social media by extent is here to stay.
Yes.
It's up to the parent to first of all educate themselves on the various social media platforms that are there, the dangers, and how they can be used positively. Because the internet by itself is a good servant, but a very bad master.
Yes.
So it's important for us to teach our children to create a balance between how much time, for example, they spend on social media versus how much time they spend doing quality work like schoolwork or house chores. If we do not do that, social media by itself is engineered to be addictive. So it's about scrolling, and you never really get to the bottom of the page.
Yes, it just keeps on going.
And there's
it's
always a new reel.
bottomless pit.
Yes.
Yes.
And so people keep digging and digging and digging for this new excitement. And it's also important for parents to know the psychological effects of that. For example, the high dopamine levels that are created by these social media platforms and the internet at large. So create a balance. Have your child have a timetable. Expose your child to the internet at the right age.
What's the right age?
The right age, that's a very interesting question. It's a tricky question.
Yes.
Because maturity by itself has nothing to do with age.
True.
So when your child is mature enough, you know when your child is mature enough, when they understand right from wrong, from your teaching, they know that this is wrong, this is right. When you can teach them the discipline of time and they can manage their time so that they know this is homework time, then I have to watch cartoons or TV for 1 hour and it's on Sunday or this day. When they can understand that schedule and you are able to teach them that, then I think you are able now to tell them now you can watch cartoon or you can do 1, 2, 3 things using this social media platform. Otherwise, do not.
Do not expose them to that.
And parents fail in the sense that we are too busy, and so we come home late, tired, and we give our children phones. Just watch. There's YouTube for kids. You just watch just to get rid of them, right? But what we don't know is that by so doing, we are exposing them to a very large world of both good and evil.
Yes.
And we have no control over what they see. So it's important also for parents to have control or parental control over the TV, over the phones, because there are apps to do that you can monitor what your child is doing even when they are away from you.
Now, up to what age? Up to what age should you monitor what they are engaging themselves in on social media? Take, for instance, I have university. My daughters are in the university. I have one that is right now going to grade 7, but I have university girls. So now, when they get to this age, because as long as they are living under my roof,
you have to take control.
Oh yes, as long as it's under. If you move out, you're living somewhere else. That's a completely different ball game.
Yes.
But as long as you're living in my house, I have the right.
Yes.
To know exactly what is happening in my house.
Sure.
So, when it comes to this age, now how do you deal?
It's important, first of all, to inform them from a young age that I'm going to monitor what you do. And even when you buy a phone in the house for the children, it should be known that it's not their phone, it's your phone under their care. That should be made very clear.
Say that again.
It's not their phone.
Yes.
Even if you buy them for their birthday as a birthday present,
Yes.
tell them, baby girl, I'm buying you this. it is my phone. I'm putting it under your care.
So I can take
retrieve it anytime.
Yes.
I can monitor what you're doing on it anytime. There are no passwords, and if you put them, I must know what the password is. So from the onset, if you set the ground rules, it becomes easier to follow up. So what most parents fail in is you give it to them. It's a birthday present, they're turning 8, they're turning 10, 12. So you give it to them, and
It's
they
theirs.
take charge, and it's theirs. Now they lock themselves up in their rooms, and you have no control over what they do from there on.
You know, there was a time I just decided
Yes.
that I was going to do a random access
Yes.
to people's phone in the house.
Yes.
Because the rule in the house is
Yes.
the password has to be known by everybody.
Sure.
Even my phone.
Yes.
My kids basically can access my phone.
Yes.
They know the password. Everybody knows, is supposed to know the passwords of everybody. So I decided, okay, bring your phones.
Yeah, let me
I want
see.
to check what is happening there. And my daughter tells me, Dad, first and foremost, I'm in campus.
Yes.
You're invading my privacy. And I told her, your privacy, my foot. As long as you're in my house.
Yes.
I bought the phone.
As
long as you're in my house, I have a right to access, unless there are things you're doing on that phone that you should not be doing. So we had what you can call democracy.
Yes.
But I dictated as a dictator.
Yes.
That I have to go through it. So I took it, opened, checked on it, and I told her, you know, until the day you move out of this place, okay, she's now getting to that age where I cannot access
She's slowly
that.
moving out.
Yes. So, but I wanted to show her, as long as you're in this house, yours truly makes the calls.
Sure. And I think that's what parents need to learn to do, to be assertive. Most parents are very afraid to be assertive. They think that this generation is very fragile, and so kids have learned to manipulate parents. I even see high school kids who just throw tantrums, and daddy does what they wanted in the long run. Because, oh, my baby girl, oh, she might commit suicide, she's suicidal. And they come up with all these things, but the kids know what they are doing.
They just manipulate.
They are manipulating the parents. Because at the end of the day, they'll have their way.
Yes.
So if you're not careful, you actually lose control over them, and that's how you lose them.
How do we lose this mindset or the constant thinking that these kids are so fragile that, you know, we have to protect them like eggs?
First, there is a number of factors. Number one, there is westernization. And westernization has been brought about, of course, by the growth of the internet.
Yes.
Transforming the world into this global village where now what's happening in other parts of the world, we have it live on our phones, and we can follow up on what's happening. So that has brought about an exchange of cultures whereby now you see something on the internet, something on TV, and you're thinking, oh, so if that's the cool way to do it.
Yes.
So parents also are under this pressure to conform to what different cultures are doing as opposed to how we were raised. Because you think how we were raised is backward and conservative and traditional, and we are modern, so we must do things differently.
So you have kids?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever whipped them?
A lot.
Good. Then I'm in good company.
I whip them to death. I have teenagers who know if you cross my path, then
there's some whipping that is coming.
Yes. So I do cane my children.
Yes.
And I do it responsibly.
Yes.
And the good thing about that is that you help them to understand that these are the consequences of doing this and that. So there's communication, yes, and they know why they're being whipped. So it's not a matter of
just coming
venting.
out of the nowhere. And I remember what I did with my daughters is I told them they would do things, and because of fear of punishment, they would lie. So one of the things that I did with the firstborn, I told her, now listen, if you lie, I will whip the living daylights out of you. If you tell me the truth, I may not whip you. And I made telling the truth
the norm,
become the norm because it would help them get out of trap.
Lies.
Yes. So they would do stuff and I come and ask, okay, what happened? And they would tell me the truth.
Yes.
Anytime they don't tell me the truth,
that's when they face it.
yes, I just go and get the cane and I whoop them.
And
So they got used to that culture of you tell the truth to get out of trouble. Yeah.
So these short-term lies don't work.
Yes.
And it's important for parents also. What you have said there is very important because sometimes parents think punishment, either by whipping or whatever other form of punishment, is the only way when there is something has gone wrong. But sometimes it's good to encourage the children to say the truth because eventually there's an old saying that when the hunters learned how to shoot without missing, the birds learned how to fly without perching. So the more you are aggressive in your approach as a parent to parenting, to discipline, the more they learn how to get away with whatever wrong they do. They learn how to trick you, how to manipulate you, how to act nice when you're there, and then they become these children that are unmanageable out there. I've seen parents who are called to school and they're told, your daughter did this and this, and they're like, who?
Yeah, impossible.
This one of mine. This one never leaves the house. This one is very quiet, but she's a bully at school.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's because they act in your presence. So it's good to teach them to be honest, to own their mistakes, and to be willing to face the consequences of whatever mistakes they've done.
Now, as we bring the curtains down on the show, let me read some of the responses that came through. This is Ken Olesaina. Ken, by the way, Ken, I have some cables you need to fix, eh? Ken is an electrician and he does some interesting work. He says, Fred Jofani, mmebaki hapo kwa Miracle Money. We showed the video of Pastor Nganga, tearing papers and basically giving out people buying. Alan says, conversation mzuri. Lennox Mpole, for real, nowadays parents are so lazy. Wameachilia watoto vibaya. Then Teddy says he's tuned. Then we have Kit, who says she's watching from Milimani. Show is amazing. And then Teddy, you say today's generation is being taken, is being treated soft. So those are some of the thoughts and comments that have come through. The generation today is being treated with soft hands. Sisi tulichapwa, my friend.
Yeah.
We were beaten. Me, I remember because we started off at Dr. Livingstone, which is just here in Jerusalem. And there was a teacher there called Mr. Mugwala. Now, Mr. Mugwala knew how to cane. And you know the fan belt in a car, that was cut into pieces and we were whipped. And I remember screaming and threatening him that I'm going to call my dad. And my dad is a teacher. So I wouldn't dare tell my dad because the same thing would have happened at home. So, but that helped us learn the boundaries.
Sure.
You know, I don't dare do this because I know the consequences. I don't dare do this because I know the consequences. But now those lines are so blurry.
And they're blurry for a reason. There's something we also need to look at, that the society, this family setup right now is very different. Right now we have so many single parent families, whether single dad or single mom, for a number of reasons. We have blended families, and these blended families also face a challenge when it comes to disciplining the children.
What do you mean blended families?
Blended families is whereby I'm a man, I'm a single father, then I meet a lady who is a single mother. She has kids of her own, a boy or a girl. I have kids of my own. Then we decide to start a family together. So we have to blend our two families, our single parent families, into one family. So that's what I'm calling a blended family. Now, when it comes to disciplining, you find that people are afraid. Like one viewer pointed out, parents are afraid. And in that setup, the fear is even more because one, as a mother coming into a setup where you find a man who has had with his kids 4 or 5 years without you, and now you're coming in as a mother to these children, then you're walking on like you're walking on eggshells. So you are careful not to abuse the children, you are careful to try and impress them, or that sometimes goes overboard to an extent that you find now kids take advantage of that, and that just manipulates both of you.
Because you don't want to discipline her children, and she doesn't want to discipline your kids, because you know it might look like unaonea watoto wangu,
and those statements come out very strongly in arguments. Unaonea watoto wangu, ama mtoto wangu amekufanyia nini? Then you're wondering, mtoto wako ama wetu? Isn't this a family? All right, so those challenges where you don't know what boundaries you can cross, and that's why parents who are trying to get in such a setup must be very categorical that if you're going to blend these two families, then have a clear communication on what your roles and responsibilities are. As I come in as a father, am I a father to all the children or just my kids? So make that clear. When it comes to parental responsibility in discipline, in provision, who does what? When you agree on those things before you come together, then it becomes easier. And even for the children, how do you blend them to start accepting the other siblings? All right, so it's important to have those conversations. Otherwise it becomes difficult to parent them. Yes.
All right. Unfortunately, time is up.
Time always flies when you're having fun.
Yes. So we'll definitely organize, because our interest is to strengthen the family.
Sure.
Strengthen the family, because when we do that, then the church is strengthened. When the church is strengthened, the society is strengthened, and the entire country becomes as a very strong, well-knit unit that works together. Very, very strong when it comes to morals. So we'll definitely revisit this and other issues later on.
We should.
So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I hope you've learned a thing or two. Must say, if my kids were still as young, I would still use the cane, because I believe the cane will not kill. We need to prepare. If you have a better way, maybe yours is working. But we need to prepare our children for the future. We prepare them for the world. Because if we become too tender with them, when they get out there, the world is not going to be tender with them. The world is a rough place. So you need to prepare them to meet a very rough world. And when you prepare them, they will meet that world and they will conquer it. They will be very successful. So do have yourself a lovely evening. Tomorrow morning, hook up with me. We'll be looking at some of the things that have happened on Morning Live. So yeah, good night.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Great. That was a good conversation.